Welcome to the Better Workday Podcast with your host, Niamh Moynihan. Q4 is crunch time for many workers, whether it's trying to achieve business goals before end of year, wanting to stretch yourself in advance of a performance review, or just the chaos of the time of year. It can be difficult to know where and how to focus your time. Niamh, what are some ways we can set ourselves up for success with our goals for Q4?
Hello, welcome back to the Better Workday Podcast. Today we are talking about Q4 goals. And Q4 is a quarter all of its own, I think, because there are so many things going on. I don't know about you, but for me, this is the quarter where I try to close out projects from the current year so I can look forward to 2025. And part of me is already planning and acting for 2025. So there's a little bit of balancing priorities there. And then outside of work, it's a very busy few months on the social front. There's holidays, there's Halloween, there's other events that might be going on. And there's a lot of things that we need to tend to, a lot of time that we need to spend in other areas of our lives. And for me, then there's a third layer, and I don't know if you relate to this, but with the weather in Q4, I want to curl up and hibernate. So I feel like I'm split in two when it comes to motivation. One moment I'm raring to go, want to finish the year on a high, want to get things done, and I'm really motivated. And then on the other hand, I want to light the fire, get my blanket, boil the kettle, and relax until February, until the evenings start to brighten up again. And this ebb and flow of motivation happens daily, if not hourly for me. And so we have to understand and appreciate where we are in terms of self-motivation as well at this time of the year and work with it as opposed to trying to avoid it or deny it. So Q4 is different in terms of goal setting then as well, because we're working with a shorter time frame. The time of recording, so I'm recording it on Friday, October the 4th, and this will be released next Tuesday. But as of today, there's only 60 working days left in 2024. And if you take time off around the holiday season, your number is going to be less than that. But yet, we want to be able to achieve our goals. And in work, there are some additional distractions like the holidays, but also year-end wrap-ups. You know, you're going to have company meetings, company reflections. You're going to have team availability, both due to people taking holidays, but also it's the season for flus and colds. So that rises as well. And there's a lot happening there along with the pressure to end the quarter on the high note. So really what we want for Q4 is goals to be immediate, focused on what we can realistically achieve by the year end, and really make the most of the time we have and not wish and hope and pray we had more time, okay? So for example, if now you're thinking of starting a brand new project, I would say, does it really need to be started now? Or can you wait till January, right? But on the other hand, if there is a phase of an existing project that could be done if you put an extra 5% effort into it, maybe that's the place where you set your goal around. So it's really making sure that the goals for Q4 are setting us up for success as opposed to distress at this time of the year. So there's a few things that you can do, okay? And I'm going to say, before I go any further, I have a guide called the Goal Ladder, which is like a workbook, and it steps you through the different ways or the different steps to set and achieve your goals. Now, this can be used for your personal life or your work life. And full disclosure, I completely forgot about the guide. Completely forgot about it because I have other guides and tools and templates, and I haven't used this one in a while. And I dusted it off getting ready for this podcast, and I was like, geez, this is actually really good. So download it and use it for personal and work goals. I'll put the link in the show notes, and it's a really good one to accompany this episode. Okay. So what I want you to do, if you haven't already done it, is to review any existing goals. No need to get distracted by the bright shiny lights, by the tinsel of the new Q4 goals. I want you to stop for a moment and take stock of any open goals that you have, okay? Is there anything that you can do to finish them better, to maybe finish them in Q4 instead of them dragging on into January? Readjust the scope, readjust expectations, what you need to do on the existing piece, okay, on the existing goals. And there is a step in the goal ladder on this, right? And then you focus any new goals on things that are achievable and actionable within 50 to 60 working days. And what most of us will end up with is a mix of goals. So you'll have some which have carried over from previous quarters, and then you might have a few new ones which you plan to achieve in Q4 as well. And please, let's remember that these are often on top of business as usual or BAU activity, things like meetings and other recurring tasks. So we have to be mindful of that. And also, it's important to remember at this point that every goal carries an administrative overhead. So it's not just doing the work, it's also the work about the work, meetings, updates, emails, filing, admin, all those kind of things. So please be mindful of how much you're taking on. I'm just going to say that a lot in this episode because it's the trap we fall into. Okay. So I'm going to assume you have multiple goals. Okay. Either multiple goals in work or multiple goals across your life this quarter. And that can feel overwhelming. Okay. So it's important to prioritize this work. And if you're in work, I would suggest you have this conversation with somebody else, your manager or another member of your team, and just look at the goals and the milestones within them and group them into the things that you would like to do, the things that you think you should do, and the things you must do. And a lovely way to do it is to ask yourself the question, so what? So what if we achieve this work by the end of 2024? But also, so what if you don't, right? Like, what will go wrong? Will anything go wrong? Okay. And it's really about looking at what the value of achieving or finishing that work within the specified time frame is. Okay. And you want to try and focus on the high impact goals that move the needle the most in your business, whatever your business is. Now, at this point, it's probably good for you to check those goals against the SMART acronym. We all love it. If you don't know it, they're specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. The goals have to be SMART, otherwise they will make you vomit. My vomit goals are vague, they're open-ended, they are misaligned with the overall goals, they are invisible, which means you don't really talk about them, and they are a time suck. So make sure your goals are SMART so they don't make you vomit. And the difference for Q4 is that time-bound piece needs to be more immediate. Okay, so you're coming back to those working days, right? And remember, it might not be the 31st of December that you have until if your team are finishing up on the 21st of December, that's a shorter time frame still. So you're really going to have to focus on that. And again, go back to the goal ladder because there's steps there to simplify the goals and make them growth and focus or growth and outcome oriented. And a lot of this is stuff you're probably already doing. So you can take this episode as a point in time to pause and double check that you are on the right path before we go into week 2, 3, and 4 of Q4. Now, what's really important at this time of the year, remember I was saying to you earlier about the motivation piece and that it ebbs and flows. I think more so at this time of year than any time of the year. And having accountability and having support can really help with that because no person can be perfectly productive all of the time. But when we've support from other people, we can really make sure that we can do our best and that we get back on track as quickly as is possible, right? So, the accountability keeps you on track and it helps you overcome that lack of motivation and also maybe your competing priorities in the different areas of your lives. So what you could do is in work, you could have an accountability buddy. It doesn't have to be your manager. I would suggest it's not your manager. It could be somebody else in your team and you share each other's goals and give each other updates maybe twice a week, right? Wednesday and Friday in terms of how you're getting on. You could also use some apps where you set your goal and you decide to track your goal against those. Or you can just have regular check-ins in the team meetings. So make sure that your team meetings are structured to be more goal-oriented. But even the first one, setting up a quick check-in on a Wednesday and a Friday with somebody who you get on with in work can make a big difference. I have accountability buddies in my business and I'd be lost without them because they do support you and remind you what you're doing and why you're doing it and motivate you to keep on going. Now, the other side of this is you're going to need support as well. Okay, so it's not just about the accountability of getting things done, it's the support where you need it and when you need it. And again, go back to the goal ladder, but really simply sit down, take a moment, close your eyes now and ask yourself, what help do I need? What support do I need to make sure I can achieve my goals in Q4 without feeling absolutely worn out by the time you hit the end of December, okay? Because I know you can probably do it all, but at what cost? What you want to do is make sure you're supported so that when you achieve your goals, you have enough of you left over to enjoy all the other areas in your life. So what support do you need? And this could be technical support, it could be moral support. It depends on your role and the goals that you're working towards. Now, look, one thing I'll say to you is not everything is going to go as planned this quarter. It never goes as planned anyway. And if you've listened to my podcast before, you know I'm a big believer in building in time for I don't know what yet. But it is amplified at this time of the year. I already mentioned people can get unwell this time of year. So if you are unwell yourself, that's going to set you back. If you are caring for others and they get unwell, that might set you back. If people have to take time off unexpectedly, oh my God, there's so much more. Like if you're planning to do an on-site and there's a weather warning and you can't go, if you plan to meet somebody to finish a project and all of a sudden they can't make it, there's so much that can get in the way of your goals. And I just want you to know that stuff will probably go wrong, okay? And that's fine as long as you pause, take a moment and reorient yourself towards what you need to do next. And really being compassionate with yourself and with others at this time of the year will make the work flow more easily. Now, I really want you this time of the year as well, and I suggested it earlier when I was talking about support, is make sure that you not only finish strong, but you can recharge so you're ready to start 2025 with fresh energy. And so you look forward to coming back to work in January. And it's doing things like I mentioned earlier, making sure the stuff you're working on is the stuff that moves the needle or creates most impact, making sure that you have your accountability buddies, that you have the support you need, and that you are kind to yourself when things go off rails. But also, if there's anything in the business as usual piece that isn't important this time of year, pause it if you can. Okay, so if there's anything that doesn't need to be done this time of year, maybe it's a meeting, maybe it's a recurring task that's not time sensitive, those kind of things, if you can take them away so you have a little bit more room for you, it's a good time of the year to do it, okay? And at least that way then you feel that you have a bit of breathing space towards the end of the year. The final thing I'll say around Q4 goals is there an opportunity for you to remind yourself of the good work that you do, the progress that you make, and the value that you add. So by making sure now, this week, that your goals are well defined, that they're smart, that they are outcome oriented, that they are high value oriented, and that they are achievable within the Q4 timeframe, you are setting yourself up to end the year on a high. So you can pause as you wrap up the year in December and take a moment and say, I did good this year. And I would love it if you did that for yourself, because I think quite often we focus on all the things we're not doing and don't take a minute to recognize all the things we are doing. So that was my quick overview of things to consider for Q4. I just want to say one more time to download that goal ladder guide and step through it so you feel confident in the goals that you've set for Q4. I hope that you find this helpful. And as always, please share this with a friend or colleague who you think would benefit. Until next time, stay well and have a better workday.
Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. The Better Workday podcast is about helping you have a better workday. So we'd love to hear your thoughts and questions. You can find our social media details as well as any references from this episode in the show notes.